Today's guest is Elsa Dillon, mom of 8 children with husband Richard Dillon. They live in Byron Bay Hills, Australia, and they are a family of 10 experiencers. Both Elsa and Richard are international fashion photographers and videographers, shooting celebrities, magazines, and advertising. Behind the scenes professionals for over 3 decades. As a family, the Dillons are having their second incarnation here on Gaia. They are a family of oversouls, all called in together to incarnate. They receive messages from beings as oversouls, as an oversoul connection. They have had happenings and paranormal experiences with over 400 beings to date, and many forms and multi-dimensional realms. Let's welcome again today's guest, Elsa Dillon. Welcome, Elsa.
Hi, Adam. Nice to meet you. Thank
Yes,
you for
nice to
having
meet
me.
you also. Yeah. As I've traveled over this path over the last, I think maybe 10 years or so, as a phys ed teacher for 30 years. I've gone down the rabbit hole of uncovering information that has enlightened me and made me have a deeper understanding of what exists on this earth itself, but also in the universe. And different people that I've come across in terms of interviewing them have exposed their experiences, which have been extraordinary and relevant towards our ascension as we move forward into a new energy, into a new dimension. Um, you have so many different topics that you can discuss and so many interesting stories. And I'm interested in understanding how you went from the life of being a photographer and a videographer and how that all changed and when it all happened in terms of the experience of shifting to a different energy, so to speak.
This is a good question because I realized that hang on one sec. So we now got our family waking up, so it's morning. um yeah, so uh it was like they were reflecting back now from what I know now to back then, and my whole life. It's just been a setup. And I've spoken about this before. It's just been preparing me to this point. And I believe everyone's life is like this, preparing you to that point. So, um, uh, sometimes it's your profession, sometimes it's physical illnesses that you might have, or drama that you might have in your life, or other people around you. My profession really did prepare me for here right now so that I could present well the stories that we've encountered. Because we are in the fashion industry and videographer, I understand the equipment, but I also understand the importance of soul. And this was very important when I was shooting models and celebrities all around the world, is that I had to connect to their inner soul to get the true beauty of them. And a lot of people would resonate with this in my photos that I would take of them. They were attracted to this. I would sell multiple covers around the world for this reason. Publishers knew this, which was it was lovely because when I would be photographing someone, I would literally be in what spiritual people call holding space. So when I'm doing a photo shoot of a model, I would collapse all of the story of them, and our field would come in together, and it would just be her or his inner child and my inner child, and I'd be doing this photo shoot. And the photo shoots, normally a photo shoot roughly would go for 8 hours. I would do it in 2, and it was intense. I would usually do probably 3 or 4 times more than any other person in my field. And then that was it. It was like they burnt out. They couldn't go any longer because I was holding them in this space. They weren't used to it for that long. And, the client would always say to me, well, you're booked for the whole day. And I said, this is my whole day. You just got it all then. Can't we go any longer? I said, well, look at her. She's literally buzzed out.
Yeah, yeah.
You've got everything you need. Yeah. So this was interesting. So you have the fashion industry or the photography, and then you have this spiritual. And so now I'm seeing the way it works. And we have this happen when we meet people. They sometimes can't be around us too long because their energy, they like being around us, but their energy stays with us, and then it kind of fizzles out a bit. They have to go away.
Yeah.
And I used to think, oh, they don't like me. Like I used to, as a human or a female or a mum, I used to go, oh, that mum doesn't like me, or that teacher doesn't like me. But now I understand, I get out of the way of my human side of me and I go, oh, it's okay. It's just our path has done what it had to do, and it might come back again. So
Yeah,
did I
that's
answer that okay?
yeah, I think that I did. It's very interesting because I could relate to that myself because as a teacher, I was a phys ed teacher, and so working with children and understanding their energy in terms of my own childhood, my inner child that I was in touch with, it was easy for me to get to the point of what I needed to do in order for them to resonate with me, and so we connected on that level as well. Um, and it's very interesting because I think as children who are sensitive or more aware, I think it's difficult to go through the process of assimilating with other people because at first the energy of other people is too much, and people, you don't know what's somebody else's and you don't know what's yours or in combination. Um, but in terms of connecting to the soul of what you just mentioned of taking pictures of somebody, it's like an intimate experience for a person to then be able to open themselves up and share their inner world on in through photography and through the photos that you took. So I find that very interesting. Um, I don't know if you'd like to share a little bit about your some of one of the near death experiences that you had per se.
Yeah. Well, just coming back to what you just said with teaching, I wasn't sure what age range you were teaching, but were you
Yeah.
teenagers or
No, I was teaching 11 through 13, ages 11 through 13. And
ah, well,
that,
this is an interesting age
oh, it's very interesting.
because
Yeah, go ahead.
as the human goes through cycles through their life, they come into a peak zone, and this age is a peak zone. So you coming into, say, a class of 30 of these,
Of these.
people don't think of this, but this is intense energy.
Very.
So you're coming into meeting 30 students at their peak. So this is something that we need to look at when we look at teachers, is this is what they're handling this well.
Well, the energy used to throw me back, actually. It would throw me back a little bit, and physically, I would feel a push from the energy very strongly. So sometimes there were 30 students, and in the gym there sometimes were 100 students. And so it was a balancing of a push and pull of trying to find my way that was an equilibrium to feel somewhat of a sense of peace in that environment. But yeah, it was a difficult situation
Well,
at the beginning
well,
as I go ahead.
it's like so you come like in, so you're you're a few versions um older. So you've come in and there's this like nucleus and they're spinning at this speed. And then you're coming in at different angles on them. But also you're in physical, so their ions are lifted higher as well. They'd be vibrating higher than normal than a sitting class. So it's interesting, right? But if the more we look at schooling in this way and how to come into that nucleus on different angles and being able and being comfortable as the guardian or the custodian to take a step back and then come in at a different angle and take a step back. This is you stepping out of the way of yourself. So
That's true.
it's an important quality to have as a teacher. I know now, at being a mum,
Yeah.
it's probably one of the biggest ones. Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing as a teacher was revisiting parts of myself, that the wounded inner child within me, and it displaced in the outside world, and running into a lot of different children, obviously, that mirrored certain traumas or experiences that I felt from my own childhood, and I was able to see that in those children, obviously, and it was easy for me to resonate with what they needed, as I said earlier. And yeah, it was a very interesting experience. It was an experience that gave me a sense of satisfaction and a lot of gratitude to be able to share my wisdom and share my inner channeling. So in other words, when I'd be in front of the room, I'd get like a download of information, and I knew which kid was in need of that message, and it resonated because if that kid was disruptive and he was nurtured with something that hit his soul, then the rest of the class would slowly fall into a certain line that would make things a lot easier. And yeah.
See, well, this is the same as a photo shoot. So we would come in, so we come into the photo shoot, which is a group, but it's not as big as a classroom, but it's a group of people and they all got their roles and they're all spinning. And then I come in as probably, I would be classed as the director of authority because I'm pulling all the shots, literally. And I would be moving around them, but one that would be slow or out of alignment or have a niggle or a shudder, we call it. If they weren't addressed early, it would pretty much spoil the whole day. And that's important that teachers and spiritual ones see this, because how their shudder can it's like a magnetic leak or something. How it affects, and it's very important. It's so good that we're talking about this because I haven't actually ever talked like this before, but it's really important because this is how we come in and meet others. And meeting other spiritual people and things, you do have to prepare yourself. You have to make sure you're healthy and you're clean and you're calm and you're rested, hydrated. If you come in all rattled, meeting someone that's high vibrating, you could, wherever their ascension level is, it could affect them or you.
You mentioned something earlier before in terms of the synchronicities of life, in terms of how things happen. And when you look back in hindsight, you see that everything was placed in a certain position or a certain timing in order for things to manifest to the place it's been or it would become. And that's no different, I guess, for myself. And obviously, you mentioned it with you. Right now, like as I write a book, I'm returning back to the aspects of my childhood. And then when you conclude or you write a conclusion, you see that everything fell in place, and the conclusion really is just wrapping everything up that kind of makes sense. Um, and in
To wrap everything up is again how the ancients speak of us is that we they a lot of the time we're crusting, so we crust over. So when you're wrapping it up, you're forming the full husk or the full seed of that moment. And it's very good to do this. It's because it does feel like a little bit of an accomplishment, which is a sort of like a human feeling, but it also it gives acknowledgement, and acknowledgement is gratitude to what has been before. And it's like an appreciation. It's like a small prayer in a way when you have this summing it up or summary or wrapping it up,
Yeah,
conclusion.
it's a difficult thing to do, especially when you want to hold on to something still that maybe isn't healed or isn't completely isn't visible yet. In other words, it hasn't reached its fruition of understanding what all the messages that you received or the experiences were for. Uh, so for myself, that's kind of where I'm at with certain things. But obviously, the majority of things,
Frustrating. It's that
very,
yeah,
very,
it's this is because this is interesting because so I keep going from human to spirit mode because it's the play between the two within us, the two streams. And so you're saying this isn't wrapped up. I still have this thread, this recurring dream. I keep seeing this cat everywhere, or I keep seeing this person everywhere, and or this person I don't like keeps showing up in my life. Why does it keep happening? Why does it hasn't cleaned up? I haven't been able to wrap this up. And as a human, we go, have I done something wrong? What haven't I done? Sometimes it's got nothing to do with you. It's literally the alignment isn't ready yet for you. And that might be other people, that might be things in the environment, it might be astrology, it might be a comet coming through. So when you start to understand that, you take the heat off that I have to wrap this up, and it generally what happens then it ends up coming through. It's like we call it feng shuiing. It's like just you're letting it go and allowing it, and then it comes through anyway. So it's
yeah.
funny what we do with our energy. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say it's the child within me, but it's more of the not the impatient side. It's the process of as you're saying in terms of it's waiting and being patient and letting the universe find its course. As you speak of feng shui, I'm also interested in feng shui and what's the flying star feng shui. Every year I put specific auspicious objects and different placement based upon my number, my con number, I think it is. I forgot the number. Everybody has a feng shui number, right? If you
Ah, I forgot about that. I've forgotten what my number is.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated with that. I'm an 8, and my direction is the northeast. So the northeast is my power direction, and the different auspicious directions themselves. So each each year I base my flying flying star. I think I forget the name of it. I move different objects in different directions, um, and find it interesting. I find it interesting that the manipulation of objects to sustain or support a different direction on behalf of our own energy. But what it makes me interested is knowing that each one of us, each individual, has a specific direction, and all the people in that direction, and categorizing and putting things into the place where they go. How did you get into feng shui?
Oh, well, with design and photography, I would come in and um, direct sets and things like this for shoots. And then I got my own home. So I started liking how things were. And then I started realizing that this pot felt better over here. And this felt better. And then I started realizing that it has a greater purpose. Everything has an energy to it. I started to learn that money wasn't money. And I learned that how you move through your day to day creates luck. There's no such thing as luck. And this was a really interesting topic for me because, I grew up in a very normal family, and luck was you had bad luck and good luck. Whereas now, um, I'm learning to be a creator, and now I'm understanding energy, so I can place my luck. And people go, well, how does that work? And I say, it literally is like feng shui. You place your luck around you. But it's again coming back to appreciation and gratitude because you are seeing what is before you on your path and acknowledging it. You do create your luck. But if you're on default, the human side,
Yeah.
if you're on a program that has been placed on you, it takes a while to unpack that one.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, you spoke about the impetuses that take place that put a person on a path. And it could be an illness, it could be a fight, it could be just the timing, the synchronicities of things. Interviewing people who have near-death experiences, they have this encounter with relatives, past ones, galactic beings that pass information on to them. And through that experience, they come back changed and evolved in a short period of time. And so for myself, or I could speak on behalf of myself, having Lyme disease and having a not a near death experience, out of body experiences as a child, uh, created created an opening for me. It shifted my consciousness.
All right, now I know why we're aligned. So you spoke of Northeast, which is the message I've been getting since August 22, which was the big shift. Not only is Northeast showed to me in Northeast, it's also showed to me through angels and angles, and also has a lot to do with the cones in our eye. The angle, like the clock behind you, similar thing. It's the angle, it's the 12-2, between the 12 and the 2, northeast. Uh, you talk of Lyme disease. I have just had Lyme disease. I get it. It sometimes comes back, and I have just had it last week. This was one of the reasons I couldn't see you last week, is I got bitten by a tick, and my face was peeling on one side just last week. Um,
Wow.
I've had it. I've had it for 6 months, 10 years ago. And now I know why I had it last week, was so that we could speak about this with you here today. This is weird. This is setting me. This is a setup.
A
It's a
synchronicity.
setup. So
Yeah.
yeah, so this time I could feel the Lyme, the disease, whatever you want to call it, shift through my body. And I was very aware of what node it was going to. So I started up here on my ear, went down to this node, and usually I've had it twice before. It stays on one side. This time it relocated to this side of my face, to this side, the jaw, so I could feel it in my bones. It made me feel very vulnerable
Yeah.
when it comes through. This Lyme disease makes you feel very vulnerable and weak. It really makes you feel weak. Why do we as humans have to go through this experience of weak and lack? And I feel that more than ever, humans have reached the lowest part that we could reach in humanity, this weakness spot, to actually realize and acknowledge, like what we were speaking about before, and have gratitude for actually how great we can become from here,
Yeah.
and be proud of it, and and be excited about that wrapping up stage, the conclusion stage. Look, almost being in that last summary stage with excitement, maybe not being there, but being excited to be there. It's a nice thought. It's actually made me feel like I've just gone.
Yeah.
The
I
energy in me has just lifted really high, because why do we have to go through pain and suffering?
well, I think the ego mind will draw us back to the materialism with that exists outside of ourselves. And I think that we're reminded of our humanness by suffering. And not that we have to suffer, but in order for us to evolve, we have to be brought to our knees in order to reach higher and expand. That's what that did for me. Mine came about when I had a dream. I had a dream that I had got bitten by a tick, and I saw the bite in my dream. And so I went to the doctor and asked him, I said, could you do a test? And he said, for what? I told him. But after I had that premonition or that insight, then it changed everything for me, because now I trusted my own intuitive mind, and I also lost complete trust in, not completely, but a big portion of conventional ideas of medicine. And it shifted me towards going more up the holistic and healing route, which is where I'm at now and what I'm doing. And so I don't think, well, I shouldn't say I don't think, as you mentioned earlier, as you look back on things, you recognize what was the impetus to put you on that path. And like many people, there's an illness or a drama or a brick they get hit with or a feather they get hit with. But we're here to evolve and to awaken. So I was awoken for sure by that. That really woke me. That drained me completely physically, and it changed me. It changed a lot, and for the better. For the better.
It's it's so funny because, like with the teacher, what does a teacher do? A teacher grades you as a student, right? So what does the teacher do on the sheet? Tick, cross, tick, cross. So a tick is a right angle. A tick is northeast to me. A little tick comes along and changes your alignment for the cross. And I've never looked at the, see, this is what happens is people say, oh, you're being silly. Because a lot of the time I would be explaining these happenings, occurrences to the kids in a childlike manner, so they would understand. It also helped me to understand. But when you actually start to look at it, that's when you start to then realize all the symbols before you. You're stepping away out of the programs and you're seeing the symbols, because before language and religion, that's all there was. It was symbols, messages. They would follow the clouds. They would follow what was before them. And a little tick has come along.
Yeah, that's true.
But so now look how powerful you are. So people go, oh, this is just coincidence. And I go, well, now when I hear these terms, I always laugh and chuckle, because I go, oh, you've just Mr. Smithed it. Or, cognitive dissonance. So I've had this tick experience, which has just healed. Only probably the last 2 days has healed up. So it's taken a good 2 weeks. So it's pretty much when we had communications, right? This is what happened to me.
Yeah.
How powerful are you? So I've interacted with you just through words. It's come through into me to re-spin in me for whatever reason I need it. But this is meant to be brought before us to speak today about how powerful we are. This is the butterfly effect. I talk about this all the time. And they go, oh, that can't be that. I go, it is. So the faster you say that is that, and you get on with it, and that is that, you don't place too much hoo-ha on it. But I mean, I am placing a lot of attention on it now to bring it to our attention. But in our day-to-day, we're just like, oh, that's what it is. That's what it is. We're fast with it. So there's no fear or doubt, delay.
Right.
So when people speak of the quickening and the alignments happen really fast for us, and a lot and many, because we're not in waiting zones with our ions. We're going bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I look at it all as a as an experience and a teaching moment. And as long as the connection is strong and my insight and intuition grows, then it's a very positive experience. And it's interesting how I've come across people who resonate with symbols like yourself and the wordage that fits certain synonyms, or I wouldn't exactly know the name of the spelling of something like Hertz. I've seen you Hertz, Hertz, and Hertz, uh, and different different words and their energy that they carry. Uh, for me, for me, it resonates in some of the stories that we've mentioned before we got on in terms of past life stuff, symbols on pyramids, and its connection to that. That's what I get. Um, so, in terms of understanding symbols and the power that exists and representations of things, it's it's very interesting. I like that word, interesting. Um,
Yeah. Well, this is so, um, this is the other thing that I find interesting is the more I go through this show or this human experience or whatever this is supposed to be, I start seeing that what has been before and the symbols before, I can read them, I understand them, but I don't understand them from what I've been told. This does create conflict
yeah,
because who is this person? You know, who does she think she is? But it doesn't worry me anymore. Sorry, we have puppies, so we have 9 puppies at the moment. So sorry if you can hear them in the background.
I don't.
Uh,
What kind of dogs are they? What kind of puppies?
we got Dalmatians.
Wow.
Dalmatians. It's a lot of spots.
Yeah,
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 yeah, and they're very adorable. So, um, so with the symbolism, the symbols are there, and it creates a frequency. So depending on what realm you've held yourself at, or where you've anchored at, they will hold a frequency there. So sometimes things I'll speak about Saturn, and people say, oh, well, Saturn's very dark. And I say, yeah, there, at that realm there, it's very dark. In that, if we go back to that spot where they're speaking about it, it's dark. Go before this, keep going. Don't stop there. Why are you stopping there? Keep going. Don't, if you need to stay there, that's fine. I understand. But it's either an anchor or a shaft. This is one of the greatest symbols through time, this symbol. It's also a question mark. It's the sword, it's the sec, it's the question mark, it's number 5. It's the serpent, it's you're bending around everything, working around your spine, it's you coming up your kundalini, it's you understanding, is this an anchor for me to learn more, or is it my shaft as a shepherd to lead me? And understanding this as well takes the heat off you being a human, because you're not angry at yourself all the time for the delays or the frustration, or why aren't I doing this at the moment, or I just got angry, I raised my voice. You're going, oh, that was just then. That was just then. That was just then. So not only are you faster with the symbols, so no fear, no doubt, no fear, no doubt, but you're also faster with your reaction. And it's the playing of this in you brings the alignment of others, your magnetics. It's because that's how you're shifting all your ions around your body. It's so then it goes, okay, well, now you can handle this. Let's step it up a bit. Now you can handle this. And this is what teachers do, right? They go, okay, well, we've finished program A. Let's move to program B. This is what I feel like the cosmos is doing with us.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
going, okay, they can handle the ghost. They can handle the fairies. Let's step it up a bit. And sometimes I'll step it up in you physically. Sometimes I'll step it up with you with other people. Sometimes I'll step it up with ETs or angels
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
very interesting.
they've stepped it up. Yeah, they've stepped it up in terms of sightings, contacts, dreams, um, ships. So I do get my connection like that, and I'm very drawn to stories, galactic stories, people who have a connection to different different alien beings, and coming into contact with others who resonate at that frequency and at that understanding is interesting. Um, yeah, I've
Do
had
you notice? Do you notice? So you know when you said that step up, do you actually notice in you the step up that moment? Is it like an aha moment, or is it? Do you go, oh, is it, or is it more gradual? I'm just curious because
I would say that it takes a while to assimilate it because being surrounded by other people who resonate with it to a very small percentage, but not fully, creates creates a disconnect of what's mine and what I can take ownership for and continue on. Uh, when in relationships, it's difficult if people are on. It's easy if people are on the same exact page with one another and have similar experiences, and then they resonate with communicating those that information that they receive. Of course, we as individuals we're contacted or we're on our own path and journey. But for me, it's taken me, I would think, I know I feel it within me right away that there's a certain download of information for me. So I would say it happens, but it takes a while for me to adjust to it or be receptive of it.
so again back to the nucleus. Or we call the nucleus. This is actually time. This is what we believe time is. So it's like the golden compass. So it's like imagine Adam spinning. It's funny because your name's Adam. Just like your name is Adam Gell. Like there's no coincidences with your name. So you're spinning like this, and then you said that you separate. Now this is interesting because this is how how different people use this spiritual energy. So you're spinning like this, which is it's so similar to how you are as a teacher. And then you step out of it. This is a tool. This is a huge tool. Not many people can do this. I can't do it. I don't step out of it like that. I stay in it the whole time. So this is all spinning. You're able to step out of it for a bit. Sometimes it could be a long time, I'm sure.
Yeah,
With the Lyme disease, probably it was a while.
yeah.
But you probably can do it. Now that we're bringing attention to this, you'll probably be able to make this even more of a tool for you, where you can go in, out, really quickly. So you can step out and come back in. So it's like a water droplet that separates a bit and then comes back in. So while this is all still spinning here, you're able to come back here, regroup, and then come back into it. It's this might be like a whole form of new way of healing for many. And see, when I'm doing it, I stay in it the whole time. So I don't know what it is about me, but the kids say, how can you speak to those people, speak to these people, listen to us, and hear a snake that's at the end of the paddock? How do you do that? And I said, I don't know, but I'm able to do it. We're just going to go with that.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that
I
I
don't
understand.
hoo-ha it. I don't hoo-ha it. I just go, okay, that's it. That's it. And because there's so many things going on, I don't hoo-ha it too much. I just get on with it. I get on with it. So, and it just becomes faster and faster and faster. But this stepping out is, I'm sure one of our children do this. They step out of it and then they come
Y-
back in. It's frustrating though for me because where do you go?
Yeah, that's
So then I
interesting.
have to be patient. I have to
Yeah,
be patient with someone like yourself.
many of my relationships are exactly that way. I step out, people don't know where I am, and then I come back. And because my mind is scanning a situation and taking in all the stimulus that's around me, it becomes difficult for a person who wants stability to be able to be in my presence completely because I have that ability to shift my attention elsewhere, draw upon information, my insight, and then come back into a moment and be in the situation. Although I don't know if I've used it as a means of escape or a means of leaving in terms of like an out of body experience at moments. So I've had that as a child. And then having that experience has taught me how to be able to leave in some way and come back. So there's different components to this for me. But I do have that ability to make contact with information in the different, the astral plane in doing readings and then come back. And yeah, yeah,
See, well, by doing this, you're not carrying it all with you. So you separate and you can go and collect what you need. It's like you go, okay, I'm going to let you guys sort yourselves out here, whether that's you talking to your ions in your own body. I'm going to let you uh, um, manifest all this here. I'm going to step out here for a minute, collect what I need to do here, and I'll come back. Can you see what you're doing? So uh, this is like time travel almost. It's when you start to really look at it and you go, this is actually a practice. This is a practice. What you're talking about is it's a tool that could help many. And by me hearing myself talk about this with you will give me patience with others. So instead of me sitting here going, why aren't you talking to me? Why haven't you responded? Why haven't you done this? I'll go, oh, they're off collecting info. I'll wait for them to come back. Just
yeah.
and then you allow. So you become all low. Allow. So we become grounded, all low.
That's a good one.
It's
Well,
it's all there.
yeah, I guess you're referring to your children in terms of the their ability to go elsewhere and or others that need you. It's interesting. People want someone's attention, and if they want their attention, we lose track of that concept. But as you just mentioned, to be able to assimilate that into your own holding space and finding a time to understand that information is being absorbed or yeah, I think that's what it is. People always say, what are you looking at? I'll be looking here and looking there, and with such intent. So as if somebody's walking by, but it's my mind really drawing something in, as you just said. And I have not been aware of that myself to fully, but I am aware by when I verbalize it and when I share that with you.
Well, I would love for us to come back together in communications again. And I want to know, how many are you talking to? Because this is what we do with people we meet around the world. We go, okay, so now we're coming to an understanding. Okay, let's take it deeper. Are you talking with the trees? How deep is this going? Are you talking with planets? Is it off-worlders? Is it in-worlders? Are
Yeah,
you talking to your higher self? And a lot of people will say they're talking to God, or they're talking to Archangel Michael, or some people say they're talking to dark ones. It doesn't matter. They're just frequencies. Who are you talking to?
Yeah.
Or are you only talking to one all the time? Like it's here, are you talking to as a whole civilization? Are you talking to a representative of that civilization? Or do they keep sending you different representatives?
That's
It's
a good.
very exciting, right? Like when you start to think like this and sense like this, um, that everything becomes so much bigger and greater. You become more humble, I guess, to it all. But you become more, your ions become lifted. I mean, I'm just excited talking about this because um, you're a teacher, and a teacher holds such an important role in where we all go from here, because you're uh, you're guiding the path of the new ones.
Yeah, well, it's turning one's own experience outward and waiting till, I guess, the experiences resonate with others. And I think the compassion, the open heart, and the feeling of self learning to have self love, and not shutting the inner child, the wounded inner child, away, helps one become, I think, a good teacher with children. Because once that inner child is alive, you're alive with the children in unison, and they could sense that in you, and you could sense that in them, and you no longer become this person who just teaches doctrine, or coming from a place of an adult that is not in touch with the child. Then you're half-hearted and you're cut in half. And so I've always operated understanding the children, understanding my own children, understanding the students. And I've fought through people who have turned their back on their own inner child, and being in my presence, I guess they have a hard time understanding that work, or almost as if they're intimidated by the innocence of doing that. It doesn't look like it's innocent, and it doesn't look like it's, uh, I wouldn't say positive. It doesn't look like it's, yeah, that it's hard work, but it's necessary. It's necessary to be, as a parent, and it's necessary as a teacher. And as you mentioned before, as I am a teacher, but you're a parent, and I'm a parent as well. And so that position of being in that place of holding space, allowing the child to grow and to understand that it's all an experience, that we're here to learn, that we're here to experience and not be perfect, and not have to be perfect. Those those tendencies come back for each person when they're reminded of scenarios in their childhood that come up and rise when we have children, and how do we handle a situation the way we were taught, or do we go against the grain and challenge things that were dysfunctional? um,
So how do we handle? So do we use our anchor and hold ourselves in a memory? Memory is only ever meant to be a tool. That's it. It's a dream. It's a tool. It's not your anchor unless you choose it to be. It's always
right.
your choice. So how do you handle it? Or do you want to handle it as an anchor or a shaft? Do you want to be a light, a lead, or do you want to anchor here? And this is where we are now. Is many of us are anchored at certain spots, and they don't like the feeling of being hooked.
Right.
They don't like it. It feels it it's a spike in you. It's holding you down. And a lot of people want to ascend, and but they're so used to the hook. The hook is their comfort zone, really. And they have to let go of the hook and come into the shaft. No one can do this for you. They can show you pointers and offer you guidance and sounding boards and debriefing. These are the best ways to heal, but you have to do this work yourself. And what's funny is they don't want to. Many of them don't want to do it. They just don't want to. They would rather know that there's some tablet that might make it go away.
Yeah. Well, it's the it's the pain. It's sitting with it's sitting with uncomfortable feelings and going against things that they've been taught that they don't question. Indoctrination and programming. And as you sit amongst people and you recognize the fragility of, first of all, the fragility of life, but secondly, the fragility of a shift that people, as you mentioned, are afraid of making. And as I sit here and I speak, it's not a judgment, and it's not as if one's better than the next, but it's the experience of recognizing the shadows within yourself and understanding those shadows and then bringing them to light so they no longer cast the same imagery that we are programmed, as the people who are sending these messages resonate with that same program. So they're in a position where there's an equilibrium. They're at that level where what is being programmed on the news, the media, the information, it resonates with the person because it's just a step away, I think, from shifting. But it's so difficult because of the pain and the revelations and the change in relationships that could take place if that happens.
Well, this physical pain, everyone is always running away from.
Right.
They want to cover it up and they want to band-aid it. And one of the biggest lessons I learned when I first met Richard was Richard was a motocross champion. He was an Australian champion for motocross. And so he was very into motorbikes. He could rebuild them, and he would, he was a champion for years. Anyway, he taught me how, when I met Richard, so years later on, I meet Richard, and he taught me motocross. So we would go through all the forests and I would ride with all the men. Anyway, I came off on a corner. I got fear. I was in fear. I locked my brake and I went sliding, and I like broke my wrist, sort of thing. Not broke fully, but fractured it. He had to leave me in the forest to go and get help. And he said, "You're going to go into shock because you've never had pain before." And he said, "Now shock will come in waves, and you'll feel like the pain is never going to stop." And this is a human thing. And he says it does, it gets to a threshold, and then if the pain is too intense, your 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 body will shut it off. You'll
Right.
get to a certain threshold. So you'll get to a level like forex trading, futures and all this. You get to a high, low, and then it hits, and then it comes back down. And he said then it might come back up again and test it. So this is what shock does. He says, "I'm going to have to leave you here. So I don't know what level of shock you're in at the moment, but it might come back higher when I'm gone," because he was gone for an hour or so.
Wow.
And I'm in the middle of the forest in pain. And through this, I felt that this was preparing me for the childbirths that I had, because I had all natural childbirth. The pain of childbirth was nothing because of this understanding of shock. So I was not afraid of the pain. I just allowed it actually become therapeutic. And I've heard other, spiritual ones. Dr. Joe Dispenza speaks of this. He's a great speaker, very well known. And he said he would love it when he would get into a fever, because that would take him to a higher level of himself, like you do, how you step out of yourself. The fever would make him do. He had to get into a fever. You do it by yourself. He had to get into a fever. And the same with me. I can't do what you do. I can't step out of myself. But when I'm in pain, I can. I can say, okay, I'll just go over here for a bit, allow the body to heal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not going to get, yeah. And this, so because what happens is the mind makes the pain go bigger. So pain only goes to this point, but the mind keeps carrying it bigger and carries it on in the memory as well. And so we always say to people, if you can understand this process of pain, yeah, I think they show it in one of a graphic movie called Lucy, where she can just turn the pain off, and if she's been stabbed or something, it doesn't hurt her because you see great, a lot of Asian cultures where they don't feel the pain because they understand it or get to that point and they're able to just let the mind get out of the way of itself and not but make it bigger than what it really is, because the pain above the threshold is actually more painful. And that's why when they meet someone who brings up the inner child, they have to go back to all those anchor points through their life.
Yeah.
That's hard. That's tough.
Yeah. It's because when you've done that work, obviously you take it for granted that once you've reached that place, you don't no longer look back at the steps that it took to go through all those levels of pain, like you mentioned, in terms of that threshold. But I think being a lighthouse for people to know a person's story uh, authentically, and then to see where they're at now creates a good example and a model of behavior or where a person's capable of going. But like we mentioned earlier, or I don't know if we mentioned it, but it resonates in terms of everybody's on their own path and evolving at the level that they need to evolve in order to satisfy their soul in this incarnation. Um, I know for myself, I'm thriving, striving, and thriving. Maybe it was a slip of the tongue, but I'm striving to evolve and to take in as much of the things that I see and don't see into my environment, into my unconscious mind, and to be able to share that and teach people of how they can do it as well. I think in a compassionate and loving way.
So you asked me, you asked me in the beginning about near death.
Yeah.
And as you're speaking, I'm listening to your words and I'm getting the message. The near deaths are the ones that you know about. What about all the ones that you don't know about? And so you're on path, you're walking along. If you were not on your path and you were delaying things or you were rushing things because you're impatient, you might have, if you might have had a near death, like a car or a train goes in front of you. And so the more you come into these understandings, what we've been talking about, and allowing it and accepting it, and also having gratitude for those moments, even if they do feel a bit icky, still allowing it, and staying on path, then you might miss that near death experience, as in it's not necessary.
Right.
And you spoke of near death. I'm not quite sure how many you've had, but I know you've had some. I can feel it in you.
Well, I'm not
Um,
aware of them. I can't say that I've been aware of in this life.
mm. Well, maybe you were just there. That's what I'm talking. Maybe that's what they're showing me this for, is that you were just there, but because of who you are, you didn't have to go through it. That version, that loop, that part of the golden compass. I've had quite a few, not just for me though, for the children. I had them while I was pregnant as well. So that's weird, right? So in these near deaths, am I off and the baby's still going, or how does it work?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Uh, yeah. So then you become like this avatar holding a being inside you. It's weird,
Outside
right?
of,
But I mean, this is, yeah.
yeah,
Well, we go on and on about ancient alien DNA, which is viruses and parasites who are in us all the time. They've always been there. They actually do help us and don't help us at the same time. But so when your body crosses over, they still keep going a bit.
yeah, right, right.
And we've noticed this in the farm animals. So that's weird too, right? So this whole near death. So uh, when people speak of near death, does that mean that they did go through the gate and come back, or were they just held at the gate? And I always love hearing near death stories, because how much of an experience did they have
Right, right.
through the gate? And to me, the gate is just like it's just our Kundalini or our DNA. It's just the gate is again, the alignment. So I would class when you say I'm stepping out, I just would say you've left the gate.
Yeah, yeah.
Gate is a huge term, by the way, through the hook, and gate is in symbols and astrology and everything. The hieroglyphs, the Mayans, gate is one of the biggest words.
Yeah, you
Um,
mentioned you mentioned before stepping out, but I know my birthday is July 23rd. So in the Mayan calendar, the 23rd is looked at as not part of the calendar at all. It's beings that step out. The 22nd or the 23rd I know, and it could be the 24th, one of those days as well, next to it. They're omitted from the Mayan calendar.
what? So it's like a suspension, like
It's a,
a.
they say they cut out exactly what you described, which is similar to, I guess, what I'm experiencing.
So again, yeah. So again, the sec is the sword. Uh, yeah. So that you're cutting. So cutting is a lot of people when they read this word cut, swords, they think of dark things, but to cut. So this is the story of the evolution. Is it's the father, then the son. So it's the one and then the one. So you have to it's like what you're doing. You have to separate to the one. And then in the ones you create in the female or earth or the.
Yeah.
So
My sign
it's
is also,
very interesting one.
yeah. I know in Vedic astrology, my sign is Kritika, and Kritika is the sword, the cutter.
This is it's spoken word, and you're a teacher. So my middle name is Alexander, which is where my father was born in Egypt. My kids cringe when they hear me say this. They're so over it. But Alexander is Alexander the Great, and everyone thinks of Alexander the Great as this great warrior, and he wasn't. He was actually a great communicator, and he would go around to all these different empires to learn. This is what he would do. As he would learn, he would give a masculine and a feminine green parrot as communicators. These parrots would talk. They're called the Alexander.
Wow.
And to be great with the sword is to be great with the spoken word. Now, the S in word is again half of the Kundalini. It's the serpent, it's the snake. It's being able to move with the words. So understand the word, understand the memory, then go to the next one. Understand, go to the next one. And you take it with you. So being great with the spoken word is not only you can be great speaking it, but you can be great letting it come with you as well. And this
Yeah.
is a role of a teacher. It keeps coming. See, it's all a setup. The whole thing, our whole interview here is just one big setup.
Well, what's interesting is that you're able to decipher again the information and to draw upon that, which is great, which is inspiring. And as it relates to the interview itself, photo shoot has a culminating moment, I'm sure, in terms of where a person, what they feel at the end of their photo shoot, and what you feel as the photographer, and what was exchanged. And for me, in speaking with you, I've grown a little of an understanding of myself in the process of talking to you. And so, just as the camera reflects the image of the other person back to the photographer and back and forth, your words resonate with me and my history and my connection to the universe and its implications for healing and for expansion, and the things you mentioned, my ability to step in and out, have resonated with you as well. Um, so maybe you could just leave the audience with a final word of what you would like them to understand about the process of what we spoke about in a summary.
So to wrap this up in a nice show is we've shown gratitude to situations. And so to wrap up a photo shoot, the way I would shoot, I would be with a zone with my subject. I'm in a zone. So I've taken them out of their zone and held them in this zone for a period of time. And now we basically do an Adam where we do come back in. So I haven't thought of it like this, but we do. We come back into this zone of, okay, now we have to separate. So we're cutting. So we separate now. And then we go and digest and ground what was and what was before us, what has been into us. Does it resonate? Does it not? Do we need it? So we feng shui it to allow the old to leave, what does not serve us, to allow what serves to come in. So we go into an allowing state and we're kind to our bodies. And I guess this is what I'm saying with the audience. When you come into meeting others, whether you're going shopping, whether you're going to pick up the children at school, whether you're patting puppies, understand, appreciate that moment, and then allow space for it to spin in you and them. And having this understanding and allowing and compassion and kindness will start to be like contagious, because if you can do it, then they will do it, and then they'll do it to somebody else, and they'll do it to someone, and then everyone starts to allow everyone to have space to be who they really are.
Yeah.
Rather than this forcing of each other. So I think this is a really cool wrap up.
Yes,
It's
definitely,
been fun,
definitely.
Adam. It's been really nice. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Yeah,
It's been very different.
well, you started it off in the direction which resonated, which was very good, and we'll continue we'll have a second part. You can
Yeah.
discuss the other aspects.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You were meant to meet though before your book.
Say that again?
This meeting.
Oh,
This
would you?
meeting that you have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Something about us meeting today will help your meeting next.
well, I have to,
All
so,
had purpose.
so let me just leave it on this note. So the words that you spoke inspired me to enjoy the moment of the writing as opposed to forcing the moment of the writing, rather than having it pushed together to meet a deadline in my internal mind.
And this is a big term for humans. And this deadline is what we spoke of earlier, is the gate.
Okay.
That's the gate. Yeah. And it's a good gate. Don't think of deadline now as a deadline. Think of it as it's one of those gate moments. It's a gate, it's a gate, it's a gate, it's a gate, it's a gate.
Flowing. Okay.
It's a good moment.
All right.
Yeah.
So
It's a crossover.
I want to thank you, and we will speak again. We'll have another meeting, and part 1. Okay.
Thank you,
Elsa,
Adam.
thank you so much.
All right. Bye.
Bye.